Hello guys, and welcome to another community-featured build. Today, we have Danzo's Hybrid Dragonknight PvP build. This is a dual-wield 2H Dragonknight. It hits very hard, it has awesome sustain, and it has a lot of HP. Honestly, this is a really incredible hybrid build. I was kind of blown away when this was submitted. We have a lot of PvP footage for this build, so a huge shout out for Danzo for submitting this super awesome hybrid build. And then finally, guys, check out Danzo's YouTube channel. Links to that, of course, is in the description below. If you guys have a build or PvP footage that you guys want to send to be featured as a build or either in a top 5 PvP montage, you can send it to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. And as you guys can see here, this build is just not playing around. It has some pretty insane damage for a hybrid Dragonknight. Honestly, the damage is pretty surprising. Check out the gameplay footage, and there's a lot of gameplay footage, but check out the damage of this build in that gameplay footage. It's something I really want to note. This build has a ton of set synergy as well, so I really liked how this hybrid was put together too. So without further ado, guys, another shout out for Danzo for submitting the build, and let's take a look at that beast of a hybrid spec. Alright guys, so let's take a look at that build. So to begin, we are a Dark Elf on this build. Now, for a hybrid, Dark Elf is BIS for a damage hybrid for a few reasons. The first one being that they get a max magicka and a max stamina bonus, and the second one being that they get elemental damage bonuses as well, specifically flame damage, which is really nice for a Dragonknight hybrid. So Dark Elf is going to be your best choice for an offensive hybrid. However, due to the nature of how hybrid works, their max stats aren't crazy high to begin with. It doesn't really matter what race you pick, but Dark Elf is going to be BIS if you want to go that route. So let's take a look at the stat page that we're running here. And Danzo's got pretty nice max stat here. We got 19.5k magicka and stamina on the hybrid. That's not bad at all. And then a whopping 28.8k health. So quite a lot of health on the medium armor hybrid. Now our regens are coming in at 720 magicka and 1622 stamina. And that, of course, buffs up with our drink that we use to 848 magicka and 1868 stamina recovery. So the recoveries on this build are pretty sweet. Dragonknight, of course, is going to get a lot of resource back just from burning things as well as using their ultimate. So Dragonknight's going to get a lot of resource return just from being in combat too. So that's going to really help. The lower magicka recovery on the hybrid is all right because we aren't using a ton of magicka skills on this build. And a lot of the magicka abilities that we use are fairly cheap. So we're okay with the lower mag recovery there. So taking a look at our weapon damage on this build, guys, we are rocking a absolutely beautiful, check this out, 5,200 weapon and spell damage on our front bar when we're fully buffed. And then we're coming in at 33% spell crit and 34% weapon crit here. Our physical and spell resistance is coming in at 19k spell resist and just under 16k physical resist. And we are running blood spawn, so 6,500 on top of that. So we've got 2,600 spell resist and around 2,100 physical resist, maybe 2,200 or so. And then our crit resist on this build is coming in at 2,360. Our physical and spell resist is pretty decent on this build. We are running blood spawn, but we are not actually using an armor buff due to the abilities that Danzo wanted to use on his specs. So we don't have that armor buff, but if you want to throw it on this build, you totally could if you wanted to. Now, taking a look at the Mundus that we're running, we have the Warrior Mundus, and this is going to be pretty BIS for a Pelinals hybrid, giving you weapon and spell damage due to that Pelinals set, so really nice. And then the food that we're using is the Trifle Pocket. Now, this food here is interesting for the hybrid because we get that max health and stamina recovery. So Danzo opted out of going for the regen here because he didn't really need it and instead went for more max HP on this build. Now, if you don't want to run the max health on this, you can of course switch this food out for something that gives you the stamina recovery and maybe max stam or max magicka, and then just change out how your how your attributes are set here to make them even in your magicka and stamina. But it's really up to you. Danzo, of course, going for that max health on it, and that's the way he liked it. So I would say, hey, go with that max health. It looks pretty good on this build. And now taking a look at the potion that we're using on this build, we are using the Tri-Restoration Potions. These are the way to go. You of course don't have to buy these from the Crown Store. You can just craft these on your own if you want to. This build is not running the weapon critical buff, so you can always make some max health, max stamina, and weapon crit pots if you want. However, you will be hurting for magicka recovery then, especially with the lower recovery on this spec, so you might have to, for example, change some food out or something. Our crit rate, however, on our front bar is a nice even around 33% for both our weapon and spell critical while we're missing the buff, and I think that's why Danzo opted out of leaving the buff there and instead going for the magicka sustain from the potion there. Alright, so let's take a look at the sets that we're running on this build, guys. So to begin, we have the Bloodspawn set on, and we mentioned this earlier. This is going to give us stamina recovery on the one piece. When we take damage, we have a 6% chance to generate 14 ultimate and increase our physical and spell resist by 6.4k for 6 seconds, and this is on a 6-second cooldown. A really fantastic set for a Dragonknight, because a Dragonknight can really utilize that ultimate generation to just make more resource for themselves due to the Battle Roar passive. And then, of course, this is going to be supplementing our lack of armor buff by giving us the armor buff from Bloodspawn here as well. For the next set that we're using, we, of course, have Pelinals on. Pelinal's Aptitude is the set to run, I think, for hybrid builds. It is going to turn your weapon or spell damage into the highest of the two values. So we, of course, stack weapon damage on this build as high as we can, and then we translate that over into spell damage with this set. So really great. And then, of course, we get some max health, stamina recovery, and magicka recovery, so playing into that bulkiness and the sustain as well. And then the final set that we're running on this build is the Sunder Flame set. And I really like the choice of this set on this build for a few reasons. So, we get the max stam, weapon damage, and weapon crit. That weapon damage, of course, is going to be copied over into spell damage, which is going to be super awesome for the hybrid. And then that 5-piece, when we deal damage with a fully charged heavy attack, we deal an additional 5.7k flame damage and apply minor breach and minor fracture to the enemy, reducing their spell and physical resistance by 1300 for 8 seconds. So this is really nice for the hybrid because, of course, that ability on the end here, not only in our champion points are we dumping champion points into making our flame damage a bit stronger because we are on a hybrid, but on top of it, it will reduce the opponent's armor against both physical and magical attacks. So a really fantastic set for a hybrid, I think, and I really like the choice here, and it's going to add a lot of bulky damage on the end of our heavy attacks on this build as well, and the dual wield heavy attack in particular is very fast, so you can deal a huge amount of damage with it on this spec. Alright, so let's take a look at the traits of our weapons and our armor here. So our greatsword is an infused greatsword with the Berserker enchant. BIS for a hybrid build, I think, to have at least one weapon with that infused Berserker enchant. Give you that huge amount of weapon and spell damage. Really, really nice. Now taking a look at the dual wield bar, we have got Nirnhoned on the main hand and Defending on the offhand. And then we have a flame damage enchant with the poison damage enchant. So on our front bar, we actually have a little bit more armor than we do on the back bar. And then, of course, Nirnhoned on the main hand is going to be a fantastic choice just to give you a huge bulk amount of damage and healing increase on your dual wield bar, so that will be really nice. The flame damage and poison damage enchants is really great because Dragonknight, of course, gets a bonus to their flame and poison damage, and this will be awesome. Both of these enchants will have a chance to proc the damage over time of flame and poison as well, which will play into your Dragonknight passives as well, so a really nice enchant pairing for the DK here. Now, taking a look at the jewelry, we have got 2 infused and 1 swift on here. Danzo, of course, wanted to go with a piece of swift just to keep that speed up. Now, this is kind of up to you if you want to have the speed or not. It's up to you guys. You could even go full swift here if you want to have as much speed as possible, or even just go for the full infused. Totally up to the user here. You can go with whatever you want, depending on if you want to go for higher damage or higher speed. But it is important that you enchant with that weapon damage enchant, giving your weapon damage translated over into spell damage. Big amounts of weapon damage coming from the jewelry here, so very important that you have these enchants there. And for the gear that we're using, on our big pieces of gear, the helmet, the chest, and the legs, we have got infused traits. And then on the little pieces of gear, we have got full impenetrable. And then for the enchants on the gear, you definitely want to go with Tri-Stat Hacky Joes everywhere that you can. They are best in slot for a hybrid build. You get both the Magicka and Stamina, and then some free health on top. Cannot go wrong with this for a hybrid. So there you go, guys. Let's take a look at the abilities that we're running on the build. Starting on our dual wield bar, our first ability that we have is Flame Lash, and we're going to buff up real quick so you guys can see that nice, beautiful tooltip on Flame Lash here. Coming in at 9,500 damage, so a nice big Flame Lash. And this is going to be a fantastic spammable for this build. This is going to be your primary spammable. It's going to be very cheap, 2,300 Magicka. It's a very cheap Magicka ability, which is really, really nice due to the fact that we have lower Magicka sustain on this build. And then on top of it, if you strike an enemy that is immobile or stunned, you will set them off balance, and then when you strike them again while off balance, you will hit them with Power Lash, which will allow you to hit them even harder and heal yourself for a big chunk of health as well. So a really great ability. We will be easily setting players off balance with our roll dodge, etc. So this will work really well with that. And then on top of it, we are also running Fossilize, which will immobilize and stun opponents, so it'll be really easy to chain some nice Flame Lash combos on this build. The next ability that we're running is Rending Slashes, and this is going to be your primary damage over time for the build. It is going to deal a great amount of damage, 2,371 upfront damage times 2, so almost 5k damage upfront, and then 9,000 damage over the 9 seconds. And of course, it will snare your opponent while they are hit with the bleed. You can choose either morph here. You could go with the healing morph if you really want, or you can keep the Rending Slash morph for the snare. The Rending Slash, of course, is going to deal a little bit more damage as well. The next ability that we have is Quick Cloak. This is going to be primary access to Major Expedition for this build, which is really nice. It gives us that Major Evasion buff, which reduces the damage we take from area of effect attacks by 25%. Really, really nice for PvP to have this buff, I think. It also will reduce the amount of damage you take from Siege, so that's going to come in handy too. And then on top of it, it is going to deal a flat amount of physical damage to all opponents nearby you every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. So we get to have a little bit of damage coming out of this ability too, and a little bit of an AoE stealth detect as well, which is really nice for PvP. Now, the next ability that we have is Cauterize, and this ability is here for that healing power. It is going to be our primary Magicka heal for the build, healing us every 5 seconds for 4,359 health. And then, of course, while slotted, we will get the Major Prophecy buff on this bar too. Now, for this build, you can run the Cauterize, or you could go with the other morph of it, and you could get the Major Weapon Critical buff as well. It's really up to you what you want to go with here. Danzo, of course, went for Cauterize. I think he really liked the additional healing that this provided for his build, and I have to agree, it is really nice for healing, so there you go. The next ability that we have is Coagulating Blood, and this is going to be a fantastic burst heal for the build, giving us a big chunk of health back, 6k health, and this will, of course, increase as our health is missing, and we will gain Major Fortitude, increasing our health recovery as well, so we get to play into that a little bit on this build too. When we buff up 6,500 on this heal. And then for the ultimate that we have on this build, we have Flawless Dawnbreaker, and this is going to be here for that weapon damage buff that it provides. I think the ultimate that you're going to want to be running more often than not is the Corrosive Armor. However, Flawless is going to be nice if you need to drop a Burst Alt on your opponent as well. That weapon damage bonus it gives, 3% for being a Fighter's Guild skill, and then 5% for the Flawless morph, so 8% in total. Really nice for the hybrid because that will be translated over into spell damage as well. So taking a look at our back bar, the first ability that we have is Executioner. And this is going to be your primary execute for the build. It's quite cheap, which is super awesome, and it will deal a massive amount of damage to an opponent as their health begins to drop. The next skill that we have is Fossilize, and Fossilize is going to be a fantastic stun for this build. It is unblockable and undodgeable, And your opponent will also take damage when the stun ends too, so you can use it to chain a nice amount of damage on your opponent. And of course it applies the Immobilize. Huge synergy on Fossilize with Whip for this build. Fossilize, of course, is also a very cheap Magicka skill, which is another great ability for this build because, of course, we have that lower mag sustain. The next ability that we have is Reflective Plate, and this is here to reflect projectiles, so it's really nice for open field fighting, especially in medium armor, to have a very strong reflect like this. And then on top of it, it gives us that snare and immobilization immunity for 2 seconds, which is going to help keep us mobile on this build as well. The next skill that we have is Crit Rush. This is the primary gap closer for the build. It is, of course, a critical hit every single time, and on top of it, it deals bonus damage as you get closer to your opponent. So this is going to be a nice bit of burst as well as the gap closer on this spec. And then finally, we have our Stamina Heal Rally on this build. This is going to be a fantastic heal over time, and then on top of it, we get that nice big burst heal after we cast this ability. It is going to give us Major Brutality, which is very important because that will be translated over into spell damage as well, which is really, really nice thanks to that Pelinal set. So yeah, this is a really great ability for the build, and of course, Greatsword and Rally go hand in hand. And then for the ultimate, guys, we have Corrosive Armor, and this is a fantastic ultimate for the build because it will make you very, very tanky, capping the incoming damage you can take at 3% of your max health, which is really nice. It will deal poison damage every second to opponents nearby you, and on top of it, while active, all your attacks will ignore physical resistance, so it is essentially an armor pierce as well, which is really nice for killing tanks in PvP. So there you go, guys. Let's take a look at the champion points for this build. Alright, so in the tower tree, we have got 37 in Warlord, 13 Sprinter, and 6 in Bashing Focus. Warlord, of course, is important because we're going to have to break free in PvP, we're going to have to sprint as well, and we are going to have to bash in that order. In the Lover Tree, we've got 56 Mooncalf, 32 Arcanist, and 49 in Tenacity. Now, Mooncalf is going to be the primary one you want to focus on here because we have primarily stamina recovery for this build. Arcanist, we put a few points in here because we do need a bit of mag sustain, and we put a lot in Tenacity because we are running the Sunderflame set, so Tenacity is actually going to be a nice return of resource for us, as well as a nice damage increase and the armor debuff on our opponent. Taking a look at the Shadow Tree, we have got 44 Tumbling, 31 Shadow Ward, and 2 in Befoul. Big focus on Tumbling here, but then we of course put some points in Shadow Ward too, because we do need to block, but we're going to be rolling a lot because we are in medium armor. We're not running any well-fitted, so the Tumbling is going to be really nice as well. And then we got 2 points in Befoul because we have a little bit of poison damage, and I had 2 points left over. The important passives we get here, of course, I think are Wind Running for that movement speed and that increased recovery while we sprint. Now, in the Blue Tree, in the Apprentice, we have got 28 in Spell Erosion and 32 in Elemental Expert. Important that we put at least 30 points here to get that Spell Precision passive. We don't have anything in the criticals simply because we don't have a very high crit chance on this build, so we didn't invest anything into the crit damage for this spec. In the Atronach Tree, we have got 81 Master at Arm and 39 Physical Weapon Expert. Master at Arm, of course, is going to be a really awesome tree for a hybrid because it is going to increase all of our direct damage, magicka, or stamina, which is really, really nice. And then on top of it, the Physical Weapon Expert is an awesome choice for this build because we are using dual wield and two-handed, so that will help all our light attacks and heavy attacks. And the Tactician passive is the important one that you want to get here. Use Roll Dodge to set an opponent off balance. It will allow you to stun your opponent easier with your whip and get those power lashes off easier on your opponent. In the Ritual Tree, we have got 32 Mighty and 27 Piercing, just to mimic what we had in our Apprentice Tree here. We have 1 less in the Piercing, of course, because we had to put 31 in Thaum, and the Thaum is going to be great for all of the damage over time that we have on this build, the burning effects that we apply, and the bleeds, etc. from our dual wield abilities, so this will be great for the build there. The important passive that we get is the Exploiter passive for a 10% damage bonus against an off-balance opponent. This is a double whammy for a Dragonknight because not only can our whip set people off balance, but our roll dodges will as well. In the red tree, we have got 51 Ironclad, 56 Resistant, 27 Spell Shield, and 27 Medium Armor Focus. Big focus on Resistant Ironclad to reduce our direct damage that we take, because a lot of burst is going to be direct damage, and then Resistant to reduce incoming crit damage, and that will affect pretty much all the crits we take in PvP, which is really nice. The Medium Armor Spell Shield is really good just to bulk up our base resists on this build as well. And then in the Lady Tree, we've got 28 Thick Skin, 27 Hardy, and 27 Elemental Defender, just to bulk up our build all around against damage over time, physical attacks, and magical attacks. And then finally, in the Lord Tree, we have got 27 in Quick Recovery, and that is the build, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, so let's jump into that PvP commentary. So, Danzo actually provided a lot of footage for this build, which is super awesome. And on top of it, we got a mix of CP and no CP footage as well. So you get to see this build in CP and no CP, and you get to see Danzo absolutely rock this spec as well. So here you can see we got a Nightblade coming up here. He's going to make sure to go for his Blade Cloak to make sure that he has something to pull him out of stealth. There we see the Blade Cloak pull the Nightblade out of stealth. Try to go for a bit of pressure. There's two of them here. He gets a Fossilize off on this Nightblade there. Goes for the light attack into the whip. Light attack, whip again, just bringing that guy down. Lots of whip damage. Gets this Nightblade with his Reflect with the light attack. And then I think the weapon swap into the Onslaught on the Greatsword bar. Danzo actually running Onslaught in some of these clips in place of the Corrosive Armor ultimate. So still getting that Armor Pierce, but a little bit of a burst ultimate on the back bar there too. Here we see he's going to get this guy off his horse, hit him with the Fossilize, into the Blood Craze, into the whip. So much damage on this build. There you see the Fossilize into the heavy attack on the dual wield, into the whip. Massive amounts of burst with that Sunder Flame. Oh my lord, hitting so hard with that combo. There's the Fossilized heavy attack whip. There you see it again. It's a nice chunky combo that's actually really sweet. This hits very hard. I really like the Sunder Flame on this build, and it's going to add that damage to every single heavy attack that Danzo's throwing out here, so it's going to help him out a lot. So he goes for a peel here, making sure to keep his wings up as he runs away, and alternating between his Magicka and Stamina heals. Very important on the hybrid when you begin to take pressure that you alternate between your resource pools to use what you need the most. Here you see the Nightblade jumps on top of him. He gets an awesome Reflect into the Fossilize, and this Nightblade gets locked down pretty hard by the Fossilize. He goes for a Soul Assault when he shouldn't have. Danzo quickly reacts by finishing him off, and then going for the Magicka heal as he's lower on stamina there. Just great resource conservation by Danzo here. Absolutely incredible incredible hybrid gameplay, I've got to say. Really great resource management and really great combination attacks. I really like this build. I love the synergy of it, and I really, really enjoy watching Danzo absolutely shred people on it. So here you can see we've got a bunch of yellow on the resource, and we're just going to get the res buff up, go in on the first player there, and take him down with our friendly player. We crit rush into this Nightblade here, get a nasty dual wield heavy attack. There you see that very fast dual wield heavy attack working overtime on this build to put a lot of damage in with the Sunder Flame, as well as get that debuff. And the friendly player gets an awesome fear off on a Nightblade there. Danzo turns targets off the tanky DK to help finish off the squishy player, and then we're just going to smack down this DK a little bit. He gets negated. Oh, that's game over. And there we go. Nice little cleanup. We got one more archer here. Oh, the archer gets the negate too. Those NPCs, man, so brutal with the negates. But there you see, again, the damage of this build. I'm really impressed by the damage and the sustainability of the build, as well as the survivability and healing power. I've got a great amount of heals coming in on this build as well, so really helping out in the long run on this build, I think. And there you can see just the heal over time between the Cauterize and the Rally. It's not a bad heal over time outside of the burst entirely, and we see that after taking the horse gank there. This poor guy, oh no, I think he might have actually been okay, perhaps, but what ended up happening is the blade cloak pulls him out of stealth, so he doesn't have a chance to prepare for that curse and just ends up dying. Here we go. We've got a few red players up top here. They drop a Destro ult, I believe, on top of the ground here. Danzo He's just going to tank it out. It's not a Desperalt, sorry. It looks like a set here. Danzo's just tanking it out, and he puts a lot of damage into that guy, whips some Executioners, and brings him down. Goes for the Fossilize here, keeping that Reflect up. Great Reflect on the projectiles there, and getting the Reflect on the Templar stun as he gets the kill here. And there's that fully charged Greatsword heavy attack into the Executioner. Sunder Flame doing work there, the debuff into the finish. And then we've got one last player here, and down he goes. Alright, so a little bit of... Alright, so this next clip, Danzo is in the sewers here, and as you can see, we found a Nightblade. Fully charged heavy attack into the whip. Did you see that damage? The burst on this hybrid is actually freaking insane. Oh my god. Find another yellow player here. Just going to put some pressure into him and tear him up. There we go. Blade Cloak pulling the Nightblade out of stealth. Get the Fossilize into the whip there. Heavy attack as he dodge rolls. Great timing on the heavy attack to read the roll and then follow it at the end of his roll with a whip. And that last player just gets absolutely bursted down. Oh my gosh. This build is a monster, man. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going crazy here. This is a beautiful hybrid build, and I love watching this gameplay. It is so incredible. Here we see Danzo out open field, getting sniped by some guys here, so he's going to make sure to keep his wings up, do a little bit of a defensive retreat until the yellow players kind of jump on top of him here. Gets a nice little whip down into the corridor here, kind of singling out the player, but he does not commit to the kill, knowing he's taking a little bit too much pressure, and comes back behind the rock here. Gauging the enemies here, seeing what he's going to have to do. We've got a lower level player here, put some pressure into him with both the dots, and there you see we go for a partial charged heavy, not the fully charged because he does roll. Put the whip on him, but here's the quick target change to the higher level player as his buffs are down, and there's a lot of pressure coming in with the damage over time from Danzo there. There you see the peel and heal. He goes for the Magicka into the stamina heal, turns around with the off balance bonus, gets a stun with his whip there on the low level player, really catching him off guard there, manages to finish him off with the Executioner, and then this last player here seems to be a little lower on Magicka. He pops a heavy attack. Danzo quickly responds with the whip into the stun and then brings him down with the ultimate at the end. Fantastic little play there. Good kite and burn. And here we go. We've got another resource fight. And just going to eye it up here. Get jumped by a yellow player from behind. Danzo got that blade cloak, that quick cloak, of course, pulling that guy out of stealth. Going to come in so handy. But he goes for a little bit of a peel back here, seeing more yellow start to come up here. There's the wings, as we got a lot of projectiles coming in into the roll dodge. Great call, just to mitigate a huge amount of damage as a lot of players are coming up the side there. And then he gets a Fossilize off on the first player and a whip off on the second player to stun both of them. Really nice stun combination there. And as he takes a little bit of damage, just do a little bit of a peel here. Pop those wings back up. Dot up players as we run in here, and there you see the constant wing management. The stamina, or the Magicka recovery on this build, like I said, is actually looking pretty sweet, and it's really because there aren't a lot of expensive Magicka skills, and you don't have a ton to cast on this spec, so it's nice because they're all so cheap. We can actually really play with the Magicka pool, and here you see Danzo able to keep his wings up very, very long, which is really beneficial, I think, in these kinds of fights. And here you can see we get a great stun off on the Nightblade here. The Fossilize comes down. Danzo just keeps pounding on him, managing to bring him down after the Eclipse bubble is gone as well. And then we've got one last player here going for that quick cloak, trying to pull him out of stealth right away. See if we can find him. But let's see what happens. There he is. He opens up from the side here. We still got the quick cloak. He's still on the side. He gets pulled out of stealth. There you see the heavy attack into the Blood Craze. Light attack whip. So much damage. Got another Nightblade coming up on the side here, right into that Fossilize. Fossilize being such a great stun for this hybrid build. The burst damage it gives when the stun ends is just going to couple with your burst on the end of the stun. So it's just so much damage, honestly. A lot of damage on this build. And here we see the fully charged heavy attack. The Nightblade does a good dodge roll there, ends up dodging it, but a huge amount of damage over time. And the Blade Cloak, a lot of pressure on him. The snare from the Rending Slash as well. It's a little bit too much, and the Nightblade ends up just melting to the power of the Brid. And now we move on to yet another clip here. And let's see what we got. A little bit of a milestone fight. A red player comes up. We're going to go for the Fossilize right away. Go into the Rending Slash. Get some whips off on him. He's going to go for his Sork ability really not the best call when you're close to an opponent. Danzo could easily get a bash off here if that Sork is not careful. So then he keeps going for pressure with the whips on this guy, making sure to keep him dotted, making sure to keep his buffs up as well. Here you see we got a little bit of pressure coming from the side. We chug the potion, go for a dodge roll, keep the wings up as we sprint up here, taking a bit of damage, going for that Magicka stamina heal combination. There you see the mag heal, the stam heal, making sure to utilize both pools before we use our ultimate here, just to kind of like really push as much resource out of the build as possible. Just great hybrid gameplay. Going for the corrosive armor here, so I believe he just tanks out the snipes with his corrosive armor, and then he just turns and burns the other player here, and then he's going to turn on the sniper, just waiting for that ult to come up or a potion here, a little bit low on resource after a little bit of the outnumbered fighting there. So here Danzo goes for a little bit of a peel down the side here. The potion comes up, so he should have a lot of resource now. There is the stun just right before he could drink the potion, but no worries. We got the CC immunity. Gonna save it for when we need it. There you see an awesome Sunder Flame heavy attack dual wield into the whip. So beautiful. Drink the potion. Resource are right back up. Awesome fossilize on this guy into 2 whips. Just bring him down really fast. Gets a great reflect off on this guy here. And into the fossilize and the whips. Oh my gosh, absolutely just tore those guys apart at the end there. Huge amounts of burst. And now we move on to another clip on a resource here. Danzo's going to be doing a bit of retreat into the towers. We've got a lot of enemy players on the way. Making sure, of course, to keep his wings up. There you see an opportunity to turn and burn one of the players who got stunned by a guard here. And he goes in for it, but gets caught. Really low stamina. Oh, man. Kind of a close call there. But you see he does manage to get into his ultimate in time, going for the corrosive armor, saving his life there, giving him his resource back so that he can heal up as well. And then he's going to turn and burn at the top, dotting this player up with, of course, starting off the greatsword for that infused enchant into the blood craze. Yeah, fossilize. Lots of damage, guys. Lots of damage on this build. Really, really nice. And here we see on another resource, I think this is the same resource just a little while later, he peeks right back outside, and there is so many. Oh my god, he's taking a lot of pressure from the NPCs and the players. Sorry for the like and comment, guys. This, of course, was footage submitted by Danzo. Don't worry, there's more footage coming on this video, but that was the footage he submitted. It was just in there. And as you can see, he gets a great burn on the first player off there. The other player goes for a res. He stops right away, but Danzo follows it up with the stun into the blood craze and absolutely tears that guy apart. Great damage, guys. Absolutely great damage. And we get a little bit of salty tail there. Let's move on to another clip. And here we see we have a few red players. One red player decides to engage with Danzo here. And oh my gosh, look at that burst. Look at that hybrid burst. That's just rude, man. That is just rude. I believe in this clip, Danzo's actually running the Celine set. And there you see it actually working overtime. So he's running Celine in this one as opposed to the Bloodspawn. It is a hybrid build, so you got a lot of variability with it. And I think the fact that we have so much footage of this build and he's running different variations of the spec is just a testament to how much love Danzo put into this hybrid build. And you can just see it by how powerful it is. I mean, look at this damage. These guys are getting absolutely torn into by the hybrid Dragonknight. And here we see that dual wield heavy attack into the whip. This guy's got his block up, and even with the block up, it's so much pressure he just can't deal. And here we go. We got a Nightblade coming on us from the side here. Put those wings up. Make sure we get that reflect. The Nightblade quickly backs off and goes into stealth, jumping on top with the AoE attack there. Danzo gets an awesome stun off on him. Nice amount of damage. There's the Celine as well. However, the Nightblade responds quickly with the heal. And here come a lot of red players pounding on him. And Danzo's going to do his best. Oh my gosh, there's so many. He gets a nice stun on this guy here. Actually trying to set a kill there. But the red players end up zerging him down. And down he goes. Next fight, I think. So here we are just heading towards an outpost, and Danzo runs into a Sork. We get a great fossilize into the whip there, into the blood craze, into the whip. No heavy attacks needed. He's not chunky enough to even take the whips. Here we go. Another Nightblade jumps on top of us. We start with the heavy attack, getting the Sunder Flame debuff. Really nice. Getting that fossilize. There we go as well. And I believe in this clip, instead of running the healing Flames of Oblivion, Danzo is running the damage one, which gives you the bonus weapon crit as well. So there's just another clip where it's showing off the variability of this build and just how flexible you can be with the morphs you choose, etc., especially on a hybrid build. There we see the pull from stealth, so he gets popped out of stealth, goes for the crit rush on the back player into the Fossilize, so great damage there. And as you can see, we put a lot of pressure into this guy here. Get another Fossilize off into the fully charged heavy attack whip. He's fully dotted up. This guy's trying to block and heal it. It's not going to help. We bring him down. Go for the res on the friendly player there. Enemy sniper from behind. Great reaction into the stun break and then the wings just to shut down the sniper right away. And we're going to stay on top of him here, of course, with our quick cloak up to make it hard for the sniper to retreat back into stealth as well. Get a nice stun off on him there as he gets set off balance, gets stunned by the whip. There we see a lot of pressure from another Nightblade. Great response by going for the heal and the potion. Huge resource return on the hybrid, of course, when you drink that tripot. And there we see these guys get a bit of pressure into them. And Danzo and the other player are just going to clean these AD up. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. We upload regularly and we feature regular community content. So a huge shout out to Danzo once again for submitting this build. It is a super awesome build. I was so happy to get such a dope hybrid build. So yeah, I hope you guys love this build. Big shout out to Danzo yet again. Check out his YouTube channel in the description in the link below. And finally, we are sponsored by What the Fast. They are a VPN for gamers. If you guys get bad ping to your favorite games, perhaps they can help you out. And that is it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you again next time.